All right, I'm sure many of you have seen a recent headline where the UN is sort of saying that Americans have to cut back on eating meat to save the world due to climate change. And so obviously, you want to give an Elon Musk-esque answer of basically F you to that. But let's look into perhaps some of the motivation and some of the facts surrounding that request. So first of all, the United Nations is a voluntary organization funded by many states, but what we're finding out is they have a huge funding base from private corporations and also philanthropic organizations. The largest non-state donor to the UN is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Surprise, surprise. And Bill Gates has gone on record to say that Western companies need to cut back on eating meat and eat synthetic meat or plant-based meat. And oh, by the way, he happens to be heavily invested in all those things. So there's no, of course, conflict of interest there. Other companies like Coca-Cola and other processed food companies also contribute significantly to the United Nations. And so when we give up meat or animal products in general, we know unequivocally that what happens is people tend to eat more ultra-processed food. It's not that is what happens. This study here shows that the people that eat the most processed foods are the people that are on the most plant-based diets, are the people that give up the most animal products. Think about butter versus margarine. We know that if you give up meat, you're not going to eat beans and tofu. You're going to largely eat ultra-processed foods. And so that is extremely profitable. This is what is going on. You see big capital assets groups like BlackRock and Vanguard own significant shares in ultra-processed foods because they know that provides them a tremendous return on their investment for their shareholders. They also subsequently own significant interest in pharmaceutical companies who then profit on you by giving you medications, right? The number of cows in the United States, for instance, in 1975, when it peaked, was 132 million head of cattle. We now have down to about 90 million head of cattle. So we've lost tremendous number of cattle in the United States. The average beef consumption back then was about 92 pounds per person per year. It's now around 52 pounds per year. And since that time, health has not gotten better, right? The climate has not gotten better. So-called methane in the atmosphere has not gotten better. So it's not cows being a problem. If we're talking about, cows in the world, the largest number of cattle in the entire world belongs to India. India has 300 million head of cattle. You compare that to the 90 million in the United States. China has 100 million head of cattle. Brazil has 220 million head of cattle. And so by asking Americans to give up beef, are you going to tell India to kill all its cattle? Is that what they think they're going to do? No, of course not. They're not going to do that. Giving up meat is a problem. It will make you more likely to be sick. And oh, by the way, when we look at greenhouse gas emissions in the United States, 2% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from cattle, whereas somewhere between 4 and 10% of our emissions come from the healthcare sector. And so again, what's going to happen when you give up meat? Everybody eats more processed food. They utilize more healthcare sector resources, and that creates more greenhouse gases. So anyway, this is absolutely evil. It is filled with just profit and greed. It will do nothing to improve the health of the population. It will do nothing to improve any aspect of the climate. It is all grandstanding and nonsense. Even if you believe cows are a problem, rather than killing them and getting rid of them, you can mitigate methane. There are methods that have been shown to do that. UC Davis, Frank Mitloehner is showing that feed additives can dramatically drop methane emissions. You can regeneratively pasture those animals to not only limit the emissions, but also completely offset the carbon and become a carbon sink. So they're carbon negative. Anyway, don't fall for this. I know you guys won't, but get this message out there. Share this information out there. I may be going on Fox News tomorrow to talk about this, and I'll basically talk about what we just talked about, because it is incredibly important for us, our future, for our children's future, for their health, and for the food sovereignty of this country. We should not bend the knee to what the UN has to say. We are a sovereign nation, and it is not in our interest to comply with this total garbage. You guys take care.